Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I am going to be recording the audio for this video on my phone because recently I have realized that the microphone quality in these videos is a little bit, let's say, not amazing. And that's typically because I've got laundry going, I've got my dehumidifier near my books to keep them safe from the humidity, and a bunch of other things. I've got cats. It's crazy. Things are always loud in here. So I have decided from now on, eventually I will order like a proper microphone for sit-down videos. But from now on, I will be using a microphone just for quality purposes. So ignore me holding my phone up this entire video. I am sipping on a frosted gingerbread latte that I made. It is delicious. Fall vibes are in full swing for this video. I have my calico kitty, who is basically a Halloween kitty if you ask me. I've got a pumpkin pillow right here. That is just everything I could ever want and more. And I'm going to sit down and share with you guys all of the books that I read in September and also give you a glimpse of the books that I'm planning to read in October. Dare I say September might have been the best reading month I've had all year, which is very shocking. Typically, I have good reading months in the beginning of the year, and then towards the end of the year, I tend to fall off a little bit because I get kind of uninspired. I'm hitting my seasonal depression era of life, and usually when I'm feeling that way, I don't really want to read. However, September was the month that I discovered puzzles. Now, you may be wondering, why do puzzles matter in this context? Puzzles matter greatly. They might have just changed my life this year. I started doing puzzles in September, and whilst I was doing puzzles and, puzzling away on my little table, I have been listening to audiobooks like no other. Me and audiobooks and puzzles were like this. It has been nonstop. It is every single day, 4 hours. I will literally get done with work. I'll post up right here in front of my little coffee table, and I will work on whatever puzzle that I'm working on currently. And I will put on my over-the-ear headphones and enjoy some fun audiobook time. And it is truly the best. What more could I ever ask for in life? So that has been my MO, if you will, as of recently. And it has truly changed the game for me when it comes to reading. I have finished more books this month than I think any other month this entire year, and I'm very proud of that. I think I had a really great reading month, and especially, considering that I work a full-time job, reading multiple books a month is challenging sometimes. However, this month I really outdid myself. So let's just take a moment to give me a round of applause, not to be conceited, but it is what it is. All right, so let's hop into my September wrap up, and let's start with the mammoth, if you will, the mammoth book that really, I think, put me in a little bit of a book slump. While I was reading it, I was kind of in a book slump, and I think it is to blame, and that is Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. Now listen, I did just say that this book put me in a book slump, but I also am obsessed with it and loved every second of it. I just think with these really thick books, especially this is the longest book I have ever read in my entire life. This book is almost 1,000 pages long. Let's just sit and think about that for a second. 1,000 pages. Of course I was going to be intimidated by this. Large, chunky books like this intimidate me. They take me a long time to finish because I just cannot get over the mental hurdle of looking at it and feeling inadequate, honestly. However, I will say that this is definitely one of the best books that I've ever read, and it was a fantastic conclusion to the Throne of Glass series, which I have been reading pretty much the entire year. I started in March or April and finished Kingdom of Ash in September, so this series has been consuming my thoughts and my life for the entire year. This book was a 5-star read. I really loved it. I loved getting to realize the main plot line of the story. It's just crazy to me how Sarah J. Maas is able to start with one small plot line in the first book and then really grow a story into these really complex and diverse and multi-perspective plots. It's really crazy. In the first book, you really think that you're getting the plot, and then you don't even realize that you are so zoomed in on one singular point in time, and this book series is about to take you on a very zoomed out journey. Yeah, it was a lot. I honestly went through every emotion known to man while reading this book, and I loved every second of it. I love a book that makes me feel. I love a book that makes me question things. I love a book that I will think about for, years after I have finished reading it, and this is definitely a book that I frequently think about. I always am thinking about these characters and wondering what they're up to now. But I was very happy to finish this series finally, because that means that I have now read 2 out of the 3 series that Sarah J. Maas has published. And as you will see. Not to spoil anything in the future, but I am looking forward to reading Crescent City. That's all I'm going to say about that right at this very minute. However, one of my goals for the year was to read more Sarah J. Maas because I just loved ACOTAR last year, and I'm very proud of myself for finishing the series. It's probably the longest book series I've ever read. This is the longest book physically, page-wise, that I've ever read in my life. So lots of reading firsts with Throne of Glass. I can't really tell you what this is about because it is the last book of a 7-book plus 1 book of novellas series. If you want to know what Throne of Glass is about, I can't really explain it. It's very hard to explain. I would just go on Goodreads and read the description for the first book if you want to know a general premise of where we're starting. That was the first book that I read in September. Then I went to New York City. Obviously, I needed some reading material for the plane. And I don't know why, but I really love a fun small town romance on a plane. Sue me. I think they're amazing. They are perfect plane reads. And luckily that week that I had gone to New York City, Elsie Silver had released Wild Eyes, which is the second book in the Rose Hill series. And I read Wild Love back in May, I think, which is hilarious because when I was reading Wild Love, I was also on a plane to Florida back in May. So yeah, I guess the series is just my plane series. No complaints here. I loved this book and I absolutely ate it up. It was the perfect book for the plane ride. I couldn't put it down. Something about her writing is just so addicting. I just cannot for the life of me put the book down. I need to know what's going to happen next. And I think it's the way that she writes tension. It just eats, truly. I can feel the tension. I can feel the chemistry off the page. It's very tangible. It's very palpable. It is incredible. And I really think that she has come a really long way as a writer. I read Flawless, which is the first book in the Chestnut Spring series, and I gave it a 3.5 stars. It was good, but just not anything that I, think about. However, this book, I have been thinking about this ever since I finished it. And I also do think about Wild Love a lot. However, I think I even loved this one more than Wild Love. And Wild Love was a 5-star read. So if that's saying anything about how much I love this book might even be a 6-star read. And for a romance, that's pretty impressive. Something about the characters and their chemistry and the single dad trope and just all of that, I loved it. I loved it. One thing about me is that I love a pop star goes to a small town and falls in love with a local trope. I eat it up every time and I don't know why. It's giving Hannah Montana. And maybe that's why, because I did love Hannah Montana growing up. I just made that connection in my head. Anyways, this book is basically what I just said. It's about Skylar, who is a famous pop star, and she has decided that she needs some time away to work on her next album. And there's a lot more to that story, but I'm not really going to go into any detail about that. Anyways, so she ends up in Rose Hill, and actually this book does tie in Ford and Rosie from Wild Love because Ford is a music producer and she's working with him on the album. So that's kind of why she's in Rose Hill. And while she's there, she meets Wes, and they kind of have a whole situation going on. There are kids in this book, which usually I'm a little bit hesitant about because sometimes writing kids in romance books is a little iffy with me. I just feel like sometimes people just use them as something to boost the plot. However, I really loved the kids in this book. They really added a lot to the story and made the romance even that much better. Yeah, I rated this book 5 stars. It was incredible. I had 2 5-star reads, and it was Kingdom of Ash and Wild Eyes, and I love reading something that's an unexpected 5-star. I kind of expected Kingdom of Ash to be a 5-star read, but I wasn't really expecting this, especially because it's the second book in a series. Sometimes they go down in quality. It just depends on, what series you're talking about. But this was really unexpected how much I loved it, and the fact that I would even say I loved it more than the first one. So yeah, this is your sign. If you haven't read this, start this series. It's truly incredible. The next book that I read is The Duke and I, which is by Julia Quinn. It is the first book in Bridgerton, the series. I actually started this audiobook and I was reading it on my Kindle a little bit back in April or May. And then I would listen to it here and there in between reads, but I never really committed to finishing it and spending time with it until I got back from New York City and I was looking for my next read and I was like, you know what? Let me just get a quick, easy read out of the way. I had already listened to 60% of the book at that point. So I was like, let me just finish this, get it done with, move on with my life. Let's just say I didn't really enjoy it that much. It was okay. Honestly, I was considering DNFing it, but I really just wanted to get a book finished, to keep up my momentum for reading. And it was, I only had 40 or 30% of the book left. So I was like, let me just push through and do it anyways. I will say it was a little difficult to get through. I think the thing I didn't really like about this book is that there was way too much detail, and the book was way longer than it needed to be. Like when I was reading it, I was like bored out of my mind at certain points because I feel like we were just going into so much detail about the facial expressions people were making and the setting and what was going on in the room, and oh my god, I'm trying to read his body language, and it was like pages upon pages of just describing one thing, and it was overdone, in my opinion. I think the book could have been like 100 pages shorter, honestly. The actual story was like okay. I just wasn't really that invested. I mean, I've seen Bridgerton season 1, so I knew what the plot line was going to be. I knew what was going to happen from the show, but I just honestly didn't really enjoy the book that much. I ended up giving this book a 2.5 stars because I did kind of like the characters. I liked their interactions. For the most part, like it was okay. I wouldn't recommend it, honestly, and that's why I couldn't give it a 3. I wouldn't say it was just fine or, that I even really like truly enjoyed it. I really wouldn't recommend anybody to read the book because it's just so painfully long. So that's why I settled on a 2.5. I don't really rate books low. I'm not a very harsh rater. I'm trying to be better about that because truly I think it's just being in touch with like what you like. And sometimes I feel like I'm not really in touch with, am I just giving this book a good rating because I want to give every book a good rating, or did I actually think this book deserved this rating? That's something I'm constantly grappling with. This book in particular, I just immediately knew that I wasn't going to rate it high at all because it was just too long. And it was honestly kind of painful to get through. I did finish that book. Then came my puzzle era. I started puzzles about halfway through the month. I got really sick, and as I was recovering, I started doing a puzzle. Actually, I think I had already like fully recovered from being sick. Anyways, it was like in the aftermath of me being sick. I started to do puzzles because I hadn't been reading that whole time I was sick. Just looking at a book made me feel ill at that time, which was really tough for me. I started doing puzzles and I decided to use that as an opportunity to listen to audiobooks. I had 3 Audible credits, which I will ask you to keep in mind as I tell this little anecdote. I started listening to, first I started reading Crescent City, but I didn't finish that, so spoiler alert. I did not finish that this month. Then I started reading the Lachlan Feuds series by Robin D. Molly and Elle Madison. I started with Scarlet Princess, then I listened to Tarnished Crown, then Crimson Kingdom, and then Obsidian Throne. That is all 4 of the books. I got all of the audiobooks and listened to, I think, the second through the 4th book on audiobook. The first one I'm pretty sure I just read like on my Kindle. Those books are all on Kindle Unlimited if you guys want to read them and you have Kindle Unlimited. I really enjoyed that experience of just like listening to it and doing a puzzle. It was very relaxing, and it was honestly the highlight of my month. I rated the first one, The Scarlet Princess, 4 stars. The second one, Tarnished Crown, I rated 4.5 stars. That one was my favorite in the series. The third one, Crimson Kingdom, I've rated 4.5 stars. And then the 4th one, Obsidian Throne, I rated 4 stars. Overall, I would give the series a 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed the character development. I enjoyed the romance. I really enjoyed the politics. The general gist of the story is that a princess from one land is smuggling something into her land from a neighboring kingdom land type situation. The tunnel that she's in is blocked, so she kind of gets trapped in this enemy land because this land and her land are kind of warring, and they have been for a long time. So she becomes a prisoner and she goes on all these journeys trying to figure out how she's going to get home. There's romance, there's politics, there's actually a really interesting element of like learning about clan culture, which I think is fun and very fascinating. Overall, yeah, I would give this series a 4.5 stars. I truly, really enjoyed it. It was such a good time, and I would recommend it. If you are looking for a fast and fun and enjoyable read to pass the time, or if you're in a book slump, I would 100% recommend that series. And then the last book that I read in September is Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco. This is going to be featured in a reading vlog coming up soon, so keep your eyes peeled for that. However, I am actually not done with it yet. I have I don't even know, less than 100 pages, maybe like 70 pages left. However, I am planning on finishing this book today, so that's why I'm including it in this video. As of when I'm filming this, it is still September, so I have plenty of time to finish this. This book is kind of like a historical mystery, whodunit type of vibe. This girl, our main character, has been studying under her uncle, who's kind of like a coroner, and she's learning all about post-mortem and dealing with dead bodies and kind of trying to solve these like murder mysteries, and there is like an active serial killer, Jack the Ripper, going around, and so she's trying to figure out who it is. It's very interesting. This was actually on my fall TBR, so I'm very glad that I am reading this book and finishing this in September. Some quick thoughts about it. I know I'm not completely done with it, but I am enjoying it. I just think that a lot of the beginning was pretty boring. I feel like we spent a lot of time doing backstory, but even though we were doing backstory, I feel like we didn't really get to know a lot of the characters that well. And I feel like even at this point, like 70% into the book, like I get it's a mystery, but I still feel like disconnected from the story, and like I don't really care about the characters that much. So it makes it a little difficult. But yeah, that's how that's going. Like, it's not my favorite book I've ever read. I would recommend it. I mean, it's kind of atmospheric in a certain way. It has that fall quality, that spooky mystery quality to it that I am enjoying. I don't know. It's not my favorite book I've ever read. I feel like I'll probably end up giving it like a 3 stars once I'm done with it. Those are all of the books that I read in September. I had a really great reading month. I read 8 books, I believe. I am really looking forward to reading books in October. So now let's go over all of the books that I'm planning to read in October. So as I mentioned, in September, I did start reading Crescent City 1, House of Earth and Blood, but I did not finish it because I just don't think I was in the mental space to read a book of this size after reading Kingdom of Ash so recently. So I did take a break and start reading the Lachlan Feud series. However, I am planning to finish this book in October, so hopefully that happens. I'm about, I want to say like 200. Actually, I need to update this because I have listened to more of it and gotten farther on my Kindle. I think I'm about like 230 something pages in. The story is really starting to pick up, but I have no idea where we're going with it, truly. I don't know what to expect. I don't know really what's going to happen. The possibilities are very endless with this book, but I am starting to enjoy it more. I do think the beginning of it was really hard to get into. It was, I would say the first 50 pages I was very confused, and then it started to make more sense. Now I feel like the story's picking up more. We're getting more information. Things are happening. We're making moves. I'm excited to see where this heads, and if I like it. Right now I would say it's probably my least favorite so far out of every Sarah J. Maas book I've read, just because this genre isn't usually my typical genre of choice. I'm not really a big urban fantasy type of girly. However, I am having FOMO with this series, and I really want to know what the hype is about. I'm dedicated to reading this book in October. Hopefully it happens. I will just read the back a little bit. Half fae, half human Bryce Quinlan loves her life. Every night is a party, and Bryce is going to savor all the pleasures Lunathian, also known as Crescent City, has to offer. But then a brutal murder shakes the very foundations of the city, and Bryce's world comes crashing down. 2 years later, Bryce still haunts the city's most notorious nightclubs, seeking only oblivion now, trying to put the past behind her. When the murderer attacks again, and an infamous fallen angel, Hunt Athalar, is assigned to watch her every footstep, Bryce knows she can't forget any longer. So basically, it's a little bit of a murder mystery type of vibe going on, but there's a lot of different players and a lot of different types of fantastical elements that are at play as well. Hopefully I enjoy this as much as everyone else is, and I'm going to push through and see what all the hype's about. The next book that I am planning to read in October is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I'm so sorry. I'm butchering your last name. This is a thriller. It's a very popular thriller. It's basically about a woman who murders her husband, and then she never speaks again after she does it. Like, nobody can get her to speak. And it's kind of like understanding, like, we're trying to find out what happened, why she snapped, and I don't really know much else about it. However, I am about to start reading this very soon, so I guess I will find out. But I'm really looking forward to reading this. I feel like a lot of people have been hyping up this thriller for years, and I'm not really big into the thriller genre, so I'm trying to step out of my comfort zone a little bit more with this one. Hopefully I enjoy it, but who knows? I do get spooked pretty easily. Like, I'm not a big fan of like horror movies or horror in general. I don't know, even thrillers can be a little spooky to me, so I just thought that for October and spooky season that this book might be a really good one to read this month. Kind of along those lines of like spooky vibes, I really want to pick up Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. This is basically about this school in Vermont where it's like special kids go to, like really bright and very smart kids go to. The founder of the school, his wife and daughter were kidnapped way back in the day, and it's kind of an unsolved mystery. So our main character, her name is Stevie. She is kind of trying to figure out what happened. She's now a student at the school, and she's kind of trying to figure out what happened and solve this cold case. So it's a little bit of like a murder mystery whodunit type of thing, which I think is right up my alley. And I also like that it's YA, because sometimes things that are like mysteries and thrillers can kind of scare me, like I just said. Since this is YA and more of like a mystery type of vibe, I feel like it's going to be the perfect amount of spook and not too much scare. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that one. And then also this month, I am hoping to have a chance to read Butcher and Blackbird by Brynn Weaver. This is like a romance mystery type of thing. It's basically about two serial killers who fall in love. I don't know how I feel about that, but I've heard a lot of good things about this series. I don't know. I feel like some reviews are mixed, but most people say that they generally enjoyed it. So I'm going to give it a try. Hopefully it's not like too disturbing, but I don't know. I feel like this might be the vibe for the October spooky season. So I'm adding this to my TBR, but I will keep you updated and let you know what I think. The next book I want to read is purely because the TV show just came out on Netflix and I have FOMO and I want to know what's going on. And that is The Perfect Couple by Ellen Hilderbrand. This is kind of another like murder mystery. I'm really in the mood for like murder mysteries right now. And I think it's because it's October, so you can't really blame me. But basically this is about this big wedding that's going on in Nantucket, and the maid of honor mysteriously is dead. Is it like the day of the wedding? I think. Yes. Hours before the ceremony. So it's kind of this murder mystery and everybody is a little suspicious. You're trying to figure out who is involved and who's not. It's a whole thing. But I think that this could be a really good read and then a good watch on TV once I'm done with it. But I do want to read it before I watch the TV show if possible, because I like doing that, but sometimes I'm just really impatient and I just can't do that. But I'm going to try and be disciplined and read the book first. So this is on my TBR this month. Hopefully I get to it. You guys will find out. And then the last book that I have to show you for my October TBR is Foster by Claire Keegan. This was recommended to me by one of my best friends, and she is a big fan of this author. She's an Irish author, and basically the loose premise of this book is that there is a girl who, I think she has like a lot of siblings, so her parents are a little bit overwhelmed, and so they send her to live with this other family, and she kind of realizes like what a real family is like and what real love is like. And I really like that premise. This is a very small book. It's almost like a short story. I think another one of Claire Keegan's books, Small Things Like These, is being turned into a film with Cillian Murphy. So I definitely want to get into her writing, and I want to try something a little bit different than my typical genres of like fantasy and romance. I want to read something a little bit different, and I think this will be a really quick and fun read, and also meaningful. I love books that make you feel. I think I've already said that in this video, but I have a feeling that this book is going to hit me in the gut and hit me where it hurts, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. You guys will see what I think about this if I read it this month. Those are all of the books on my October TBR that I'm going to show you. There are a few that I am planning to read for videos that I am not showing you, just because I will be talking about them in videos, so it would be a little bit redundant. Also, of course, I've got my fall TBR that I shared with you guys in my fall TBR video. That's always on my radar, so I might pick up one of those books instead of one of these. Who knows? It's really just up to what I'm feeling in the moment. Yeah, just putting that disclaimer out here that these are ones that I would love to get to on top of the ones that I've already planned to read for videos this month. That's my September wrap up and October TBR. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more book content and vlogs and all things cozy and wonderful in this world, if I do say so myself. I am about to have a very cozy evening, relaxing, doing a puzzle. Sue me, all right? I'll be doing another puzzle. And also filming for a reading vlog, so that's going to be so much fun. Anyways, look out for that reading vlog coming to your screens very soon, and I will talk to you very soon in my next video.